There
Okay,
we
I think
go.
we're live. We're live somewhere.
Yeah.
How is everybody today? Today's a big energy day, but then it's also a week of kind of calm before the lunar eclipse on Friday. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's a lot of going within energy. Pluto went into retrograde today. And so it's at 0 point, and then it'll be backtracking back into Capricorn where it's been, for the last 16 years. So we had this
Mm,
play period of the party with Aquarius. It's going to go back into Capricorn, and that it's going to stay on that 0 degree for almost a month. What is today? Yeah, because it doesn't actually go all the way into Capricorn till June 11th. So
okay.
we're in this in between period. So during this time period, it's like, okay, so what was the futuristic stuff that was all downloaded into you during this time? It's been in Aquarius for transformation because it's going to go back into the old structures and and be like back in the old structure going, here, I brought this, I went and explored and I'm bringing this back to you. So we're going to see probably a lot of things be disrupted in the structures of society kind of energy because it's going to bring it back before and it's going to be there until October, back into Capricorn till October. So we're going to be in that window, then it'll go back into Aquarius, retrograde again, and then back in Aquarius for like 20 years in January. So we're in this yo-yo period. So you may feel that. You may feel like, whoa, I was flying. Well, why am I just sitting still now? And then the other thing we've got today is we have a Mercury Cazimi today in the middle of this retrograde. So when Mercury goes into Cazimi, it goes into the heart of the sun. And Mercury is the messenger between the upper world and the underworld. It was like the only one that didn't have to have, it can go wherever it wants to bring messages and brings messages to the humans. So we're in that right now. It starts like right now. So we've got this 24-hour period of this divine messages coming in. And so pay attention. And it's like you may not get the aha, but you may have just some little something that happens and you think, what was that about? And then it'll be revealed, like the information is being downloaded today. And then it's kind of like when you have a dream and you think, what in the world did that mean? That something about that dream was significant because I remember it. And then like months later, you go, oh, that's what it was. So we're in that magic time of that. So today is a really good time to be channeling, automatic writing, or just setting, meditating, and seeing what wants to, what wants to come in. Like be open to receive. And then the moon goes in void today for a long time. It's like a crazy big, like from 4 to 11 or something tonight. That's my time central. So
4
we've
to
got,
11. Wow.
yeah, it's got, there's a big of the moon being in void. Um,
Yeah.
so that's all of that energy. You're feeling like you're in the void, it's like a
Yeah.
lot of being in the void today.
That's a lot for me because I kind of like, I do feel like I start just kind of floating sideways during voids especially if I don't have like a specific plan, right? Because
Yeah.
if I don't know what
Today
I'm
is
doing
not a
before
day
I
with the
enter into void,
Pacific.
then
Yeah, the Pacific plan is not going to be a plan. Just like
right.
here, we
It's
had
just
this
not
plan.
even
Yeah, we had this plan at this time to do this, and I have somebody knock on my door to do yard work. You've got construction going on around you. It's like,
right.
so it's that of how do you stay in your center and in your place of peace? Because it's like there's going to be this kind of energy while you're in the void today.
Right. That's like, good luck. Good
It's a
luck,
really
humans.
interesting energy. I had an experience already this morning. I go like Monday is my day that I has been my self-care day. That it's like I go to the chiropractor and then I actually go to the grocery store. The going to the grocery store is self-care for me. Going in and buying markdown, saving the flowers at Lowe's, like the markdown plants, that's self-care for me. So I do that little thing of the
Nice.
morning. And when I was going from the grocery store then to go to the plants. When I come around the corner, we don't have a lot of homeless here. So we're not desensitized, like when you see things, you don't just drive right by it like it's, that it doesn't happen. It's like, and I was thinking about that, about how much humanity has got desensitized to the needs of others, and just the energy of that, because how it's in people's face all the time. So we don't really have a lot of that here, on not like in the levels big cities do, especially, out in California. So I come around the corner and there was a guy laying on the ground. And I thought, is he okay? Is he dead? Then I thought, no, he's too stiff, and not stiff in that he's been laying there too long that he got stiff. I thought he's not limp enough to be dead. I think he's just asleep. But he was just like laying right on the corner in this curb, and he had his cart and stuff with him. And I thought, I wonder if he's okay. And then, it rained all last night. The ground's cold. I wanted to go give him a blanket. And I was like, do I call 911 to see if he needs help, And so I'm having all these thoughts at the same time. Maybe I should go back and cover him up. I think I should call 911, but I don't know if it's emergency. What's that other number you call? So that's the messages, it's like the messages for the mind. Mercury rules the mind. So my mind's doing these and these messages, and it's bouncing back and forth from my heart. And I was like, I think he really needs help. I look up, and right when I have that thought, a policeman pulls out of the Target parking lot, like he pulls out and he comes like he over comes out, like, he's like in my lane for a second. And I just like throw my hands out and start blanking him down. I was like, stop. It was like spirit put him right in front of me, right as I was having that thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I told him, I was like, I don't know if this guy needs help or not, but I would really, really feel horrible if there's like something going on with him, and that he was put in front of me and I didn't do anything to assist him or get someone to assist him. So that's the kind of day it is. That's the kind of day, like it was like, and so when you're in that compassion, and you're just doing it because it's the good of humanity and it's the right thing to do. It just is.
Yeah.
That's when you're in the flow. Like everything will come exactly in alignment, and the help will be there, And then I get home and I'm like trying to get, ready for this. It's like because I've got lesser time. And then I look up and a guy that I have bamboo. So I have we're an international immigrant center here. So we have a lot of diversity that way. So this year I have had people from Nepal, Thailand, China. This guy's from Bhutan. There's 4 different countries that they are coming in and harvesting the bamboo out of my yard, because when it first starts coming up, it looks like asparagus. And so anyway, his name's Lee. Lee had he showed up and he said, I want to help you. You need some help here, and I want to help you do some stuff. And he said, can I help you today? And I'm like, okay, I've got to be on a live thing in 5 minutes, but you can help me. Here's my lawnmower, here's my weed eater. I'll be back in a minute. So I thought, see, that's when you're in that flow. And that's how Dharma works,
That's awesome. So yeah, because I heard the backyard story this morning, but I did not hear about finding this poor man on the sidewalk. So it's interesting how that just like was an immediate response.
When we're in that place of love and compassion and being just a damn good human, just because it's what you do. It's like, that's how the universe brings things back to you, how it brings it back to you in your life in a practical way. It's so that's it. Pay attention. It's like, pay attention to the things, because I could have said to him, oh, this is not the right timing for this right now. I've got other things to do today. And then I was like, oh, I'll get the lawnmower. I have an electric lawnmower. Thank God it was plugged in. It was charged. It's like here, and like I'm throwing things at him.
It's like you'll get used to, like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out when you get out there. Yeah. I mean, I don't. often think that, these people know more than we do about some of this stuff, about how to do it, um, in a way that also, I think, also like kind of finishes things. I know I feel like I'm always criticizing our landscapers because I feel like I would be you. I would be you. I'd be like, wait a minute, it's just living. It just leave it alone. Leave it alone.
I
Just
know, see, I do that. But,
yeah,
he's been out there in my yard enough that it's like, "Oh, no, I'll let the clover grow." I'll let it know, he's like, "Do you need help with your yard?" "No, I let all the wildflowers grow. I let all of that happen right now so the bees will have stuff." And so, I thought, okay, I'm not going to, because even that in some ways control. And I thought, I'm not going to control it right now. I'm just going to let him help me. I'm just going to receive the
yeah,
help because
yeah,
it does when you walk out there, if you don't know what I'm doing, it could look a little overwhelming to other people.
yeah.
It's like, it's my
Well, and it's
backyard.
always like it. I mean, wonderful thing about nature is that it will grow back.
Exactly. There's a whole plan out there. I know
Yeah,
this whole thing. If we didn't do all of that, it's like that's what when the zoning people have left me messages and put notes on my door because of the things I let naturalize.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
there's a plan. A tree falls, the tree. It's like the tree rots, the worms come, the birds come. The birds take the stuff here, they drop the seeds, more things grow, and it's like there's a whole plan if we would just not try to control all of it. There's a huge,
yes,
big divine plan. And so that's how I feel about my yard. It's like if I let it, do this during this time period, I get to be surprised by all kinds of beautiful things growing out there.
yeah,
I've got Star of Bethlehem growing in my yard, which is that's one that's in Rescue Remedy. It makes like a really great
yeah,
Bach Remedy. That's one of the main ingredients in Rescue Remedy. Rescue Remedy is it's a Bach remedy. That's a vibration that you take, and so it's
yeah.
like,
Bach flowers.
yeah, it's Bach flowers. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
got things like that growing in my yard that other people think are weeds. It's like,
You're like, no, no, no.
it's like I
That's
have red
medicine.
clover. It's like I've got red clover. I've got plantain. I've got I can start
Yeah.
Bethlehem. It's like these are like
Yeah, that's some
beautiful
good
things to
stuff.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think, number one, people should mind their business. But also, but yeah, like, I mean, but I think that's also something that it does, like it evolves. But we're here for a reason too. And so when we're kind of stewarding land in a way, like making those decisions. When is the time to clean up a little bit? When is the time to just let things thrive and grow and see what they want to do? And like, I feel like there's never, it's never everything always, right? Like, it's like there's a right time for everything. So obviously, it's the right time for just a little cleanup here and there.
Yeah, we're in that.
So
We've
that's
been in that
pretty
energy of
cool.
that.
So what about the full moon? So where were you? Because the full moon in Scorpio.
Yeah, that's
It's
on. That's the eclipse is Friday. So right now,
yeah,
moon wise, we are today. It just came out of Virgo, and then it's going into Libra with that void. That's when the voids happen, is in between the changing of the signs. And so when it's been in Virgo, you might over the weekend, you may have been looking for practical information. It's a time that it's like that just comes up. It's in the consciousness. It's like the Virgo wants information that it can apply, so it's that kind of energy that comes up. And then in the Libra time, it's about pretty. It's about pretty. It's like, oh, I need to be pretty today. It's like that type of energy. So if you're using any of that, applying it to your business stuff, then that would be the messages that you want to give on those days. Like, you don't want to give people like tons of information and do this. They just want pretty things today. Like, what will be pretty and nurture. And then I think we're in those voids in between. Then we go into the Scorpio. And so Scorpio is the time to give people secrets. It's like it's the time that it
mm,
comes up in your consciousness, especially with this lunar eclipse, that there is something hidden, and I know it. And I know that this is being hid from me and that there's more information here. So if you're talking to your clients in your business, then give them the secrets. Give them the secrets that nobody else is telling them. It's like
Mm,
it's the time that and in that it builds trust. It builds trust because you're handing, you're like, yeah, you're right. This is this and this is that. It's like let them know. And then that builds the trust energy with that. And then from Scorpio, then we'll go into what's next. Um Leo, no, I skipped. Scorpio goes to
you asked me to do it off the top of my head.
Sag.
I will always forget.
Sag. Then we go into Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is going to they're going to want to go play now. It's like
Mm,
if you're planning like if you were planning retreat, well, retreats are good for Scorpio and Libra too. But if it's a venture retreat, like if you're taking them out, on the land and you're going somewhere and you want to do adventurous stuff, like that's a good time to plan things like that. Where if it's there's going to be a little bit of rock climbing in with this, it's like we're going to go out and we're going to like do something. We're going to do what's it called, the zip tied things, what I'm talking about, like where people do those things together and
yeah, where they're like swinging off the line and yeah,
yeah, it's
zip
bungee
line.
jumping time.
Yeah,
That's also
just
in the
go
Aries
for it.
time periods too. So that's the energies that we have coming up this week with stuff. What's the gate? We're in gate 24. I already have that gate. That's one of my
Yeah, do you have it?
gates that I have.
Yeah, I don't have it, but I do have 61. So it's kind of that
Right.
reaching
Those two are the
for
channel
that.
that are together. So when
Yeah,
those, yeah. So that 24
it's
is like,
addiction is the shadow,
yeah,
and the gift is invention. City is silence.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's
it's
the
it's
rational. And then when it connects to that 61, so it
it's
brings
kind
in the downloads
the
from,
downloads. I would call it, if I got to name them, I'd probably call it a channel of download. It's like
I know.
bringing
Yeah.
into awareness into thought and process, right? Um, and yeah, and that is something that I feel like I'm always missing because I often get information, but especially if there's nobody to like give it to, it
You
doesn't
don't have
always
anything
show
to anchor
up
it into.
and
Right.
words and
Mhm.
like what specific action today to take, right? So I often have to kind of sit, which is a bit of the representation of the city, which is the silence part. Like how do we interrupt the shadow of addiction, because that addiction shadow is basically our brains trying to do what their job, right? It's trying to figure something out, and so the brain will keep cycling in the same process of
Right.
something, and it'll be reacting to essentially any previous trauma or the core wound trauma of becoming human, right? And
Yeah.
it'll
That
just
gate
keep cycling
24.
you through the same
Yeah.
stories.
I can see in that gate 24, like if something like totally doesn't make any freaking sense to me, that
Mhm.
I'll keep spinning with it. It's like, what in the world did that person do that for? Because I can see so clear, how the past created this, and it'll spin. It'll spin
Yeah, and it's
until,
scary, especially for friends, because like you see your
yeah,
friends going through that all the time because they can't see it like you can. That's one of the blessings of having other humans around us to reflect and mirror
right.
what's going on.
It'll spin until
But
either I go outside and break it or I get the awe. And I was working with somebody else that she has a 61 and where I had that 24, and she was like, I'm surprised that you're the one with the 24 and I'm the one with the 61 because you get so much downloads. But I realized what that does for me, because both of these are they're not open. My ashna and my crown are both what's it called when they're not open?
defined, yeah.
Defined. They're defined. So with me not having that 61, I realized that's how, because it's open, I can pull their downloads in for them. It's
Mm.
almost like, oh, I see your helium. And I do, it's like seeing helium balloons above their head. I've done this more than once when working with
Mm.
clients. Like I'll say, "Are you trying to write a book?" And they'll go, "Yeah, it keeps coming up, but I can't get it in." And I'll go, "Do you want it?" And literally like pull it in like a helium balloon and go, "Here it is,"
Wow.
and so I
Yeah.
can see things like that when I'm working with people, like that it's out there and it just needs to pop in. And I thought
Yeah.
that's what how I use that 24 to help clients.
That's
Like it has a
amazing.
place to rat to bring it in for them.
Yes, yes. And that is that the gift of the 24 is that invention. It's like what am I creating new, right? What is happening new from this information? And it comes from the ability for most people, then the 24, it comes from that ability to sit in that silence. So like a lot of people have trained around the idea of the pause, right? And I wish I knew the original lady. I just never originally heard her work. But there's like the idea of pausing, which is basically just allowing enough silence, space, and awareness so that you can have an original thought. And that's the idea of invention, is because if we just keep acting out of reacting to our feelings, or running from our feelings, to our past, or running from the past, to fear, or running from fear, or like trying to avoid what you're afraid of, right? That keeps creating that same cycle over and over in a circle. You just keep having the same experience in different ways, right? But if you pause enough and long enough to bring light and awareness to a situation, then we can invent and create a new paradigm. So yeah, so that is kind of the challenge up for now. I think this is so much. I would say this is so much what shows up in business around creating systems, right? So a lot
Mhm.
of times people will set up these funnels, and these funnels, once you set them up, they're like huge, and they keep churning the same idea over and over and over again. And so what happens is a lot of people in business, they get worn out by their own system, because that was a good idea for the time that they had. But a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of innovators, a lot of free thinkers, right? They really are responding to the moment, what people need at the time. And so it gets stale, it gets old, and then the systems will either stop working or they'll get overwhelmed and burn out,
I know it'd be really
right?
interesting. A lot of people that's what they preach and sell to see what their charts are. What is that
Mhm.
energy that they have with that they need that. They need that circle. And it feels very masculine to me. Like there's not
Mhm.
the it's like the just action, action, action. And there's not the moment to come in to, the balance of the divine feminine and the inspiration. Like it's like when you
Yeah.
do that and take that pause, it's like the breath, again, it's like the breath, the
Yeah.
pause in between. We don't, because if we just go ventilate, you know,
That's called hyperventilating. Yeah, we do it with our energy all the time. We either think that we're supposed to be, making something happening or tearing something down. What's
I know
so
it's so
awesome about like the I find about the gene keys is those repressive or reactive parts of the shadow. We always think they're going to be opposites, and they never quite are, right? Because it's really just other reflections like of the shadow, and they're really there's nothing opposite about ascending into the gift. It's just an aspect of our perspective. So the repressive side is like you basically just shut down, right? The repressive side of addiction is that you freeze.
okay.
And then the reactive side is anxiousness. And of course, like anybody who's had this feeling, they know exactly what that is. Like they'll either freeze, like that's procrastination, right? And then or they get anxious and they start just doing out of I need to do something to fix it, right?
Right.
And that is how you get stuck in a cycle, because if you act without awareness, then you're just creating unconsciously, you're probably creating more of this thing that you're trying to avoid, or it's creating that same cycle of trauma unawareness, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is always interesting how that works, and few not a few of them, but a lot of them have devices, and the essence of all of the devices is this silence. Is the ability to just sit and be uncomfortable, sit and be scared, sit and be whatever until you can have that breakthrough that Kimberly is talking about.
I know. I think it's so interesting when I looked at the astrology and that we have these opportune, that we're in this opportune energy of this with the Mercury and the energy and the lunar eclipse, and that it's the gate 24 at this time. It's like, isn't that really interesting that, and the moon being in, because the moon is in void 2 or 3 times this week for long periods of time. So it's like, okay, it's saying, take that pause and do that. That Facebook user's Pam. I was trying to look on the Facebook because it's just showing up as Facebook user. Hi Pam,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
see you
Hi,
on there.
Pam.
But I thought, isn't this so cool that this is like totally divine timing, that the message is from our divine self, and that it's this opportunity that this energy is set up for us to receive these messages this week.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's, I mean, there, it always is. And that's kind of the reality of being aware of these opportunities, right? Because that's what's so powerful about knowing kind of where the energy is going. How can it be used? How is it serving? If it's showing up for a reason, even if it feels like opposition, challenge, all of those kind of things, that we still, it's still energy, and energy can be used, right? So it's a matter of like, how are we perceiving it so that we are in an awareness and function and expansion around that energy. So yeah, that's the purpose. So when we're telling you things like Pluto's going back to Capricorn, so it may feel a
Right. So
little
yeah,
restrictive, right?
it'll be interesting. Pam, you have to tell us what you channeled during this time period. She's channeled some books and stuff that have came
Really,
through. So it's like, I feel like that there's like, yeah, those chimes were something that's coming in that way.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of high pitches, which is not necessarily rare for me, but I haven't heard them as much, I would say, in the last eclipse. Like, so thinking about the last like eclipse per session was last fall, right? Around that time would probably say the last time I really heard high pitches like that. But it is kind of like driving energy. I keep getting this feeling of like, go, go, go. And I'm like, go where? What
That
exactly
was
am I supposed to be doing?
It was Jamie was who wrote that. I thought, because it was just showing Facebook user to us. So because we were on StreamYard, and I
Yeah.
thought it was the same person, but that was Jamie saying that she heard the music of the soft chimes last night and the bell music, but there's no chimes around me. I've had that too. And it's like, well, I thought I heard Crystal Bows playing, and then it's like, and I woke up in the middle of the night and there wasn't any Crystal Bows anywhere. Yeah.
Oh,
So that's the opportunity, people,
nice.
that it's like, that you may get the aha might not come today, but the downloads are going to come today. It's going to come. If you listen and you hear it, then you'll know, but the messages will come today. It's like those energies that are there. And then if you take the time to be in the pause and to listen, then you can anchor that in, and then you'll get the ahas and then realize, oh wow, this came through this time period. Because really, I mean, Mercury retrograde, that's what it's all about. It's time to review, to go in, to reflect, and to, that we rebalance ourselves during that time period. So yeah, big
Yeah,
energy.
and it can be difficult because usually that reflection is coming from kind of impetus from outside, right? So for most of us, that's still how it works. And so we feel like we have to respond, but if we immediately respond, that's stepping into that shadow. Oftentimes when it's a time like this, right? So this is why this is why we have to want, well, this is why I like to be informed of the cycles of like, what does it look like before and after? How does that appear? Because in a retrograde cycle, especially for Mercury retrograde, it's not an immediate response thing. And if you do have to like kind of respond in the moment, make sure you're super clear, super present, and that you repeat yourself if necessary, right? Like the repetition is important, in my opinion, and Mercury retrograde, because what happens is that people miscommunicate. They're not clear enough in the communication, and then that's kind of how
Yeah,
Mercury
and
retrograde
the
shows up in our
repetition may
relationships.
the repetition may not actually be repetition. It may actually be reframing.
Yeah.
It's like if they're not receiving it, that's when you do the pause and then think, turn
Yeah.
it over to
What's
spirit,
another way
turn
I
it
can
to,
say
yeah,
this?
right, and turn it over
Or
to Mercury.
how will this make sense for
How can I
them?
reframe this? So it's like it's a
Mm-hmm.
time of all of that reflection, reframing, all of that energy like that. This is just like one of those little things that happens. You know how like somebody will hit you up in Facebook Messenger. Oh yeah, I felt really connected to you, blah blah blah. And then you want to connect some time and you say yes. And then as soon as you do, they try to sell you something. Okay. And this was someone that I had actually through human design that I knew her through that. And she was like, oh, I've been wanting to reach out to you. And so she sent me this thing. And then I was like, okay, fine. We'll catch up. And no sooner than I did that, she sent me something that she probably was doing an affiliate thing with. And she said, oh, I was really thinking about you with this, and I'm going to send this to you. And this is she sent me she put me in a group thing with this other woman that I don't know who she is, and that she could have all the answers for me if I wanted to look at this program. And and so my 24 went into, how dare you? It's like, really? That's like sleazy marketing. Say, let's be friends. Let's go have coffee. Oh, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you. And this person can be the go-between people for us. I mean, that's what it felt like to me. That kind of
Yeah, that's
old
so weird.
marketing is not going to work for people. You all, because we know that there's a secret that they're hiding and that there's something that they want to do. And you know what? I was sitting there thinking, how do I respond back to her? What do I say to her? And then all of a sudden I realized I don't have to respond back to her. That's not just because
Absolutely
someone
not.
does that. So you know how I'm responding back?
Absolutely not.
I just took myself out of the group.
You never, and that's another thing is that y'all like
I just removed
we
myself
do.
from the group. That's all I did. I was
How
like,
do you, it's the same thing as like capitalism, right? Like where you put your money is what perpetuates, like what you put your time and awareness is what perpetuates. If somebody is communicating with you in a way that is not acceptable to you, shut that down. Do not give it
that's what
time.
I did.
Do not give it
I
awareness.
thought I don't
Like
have to give
shut it
this.
down. Like
I don't have to
block
give this
them.
any of my
Get rid of
energy.
them.
I was like, I do not have to give this any, because first I was like, well, how do I be polite and respond back to this? And then I thought, why am I responding?
Why
Why would
would
my
you take your
energy?
time to be polite?
So
Like
I
it's their
removed myself.
decision. There's no real, like, I mean, we could be mad, but you don't need to. You can just delete it, delete them. Delete.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I did.
the privilege of computers, is that just
It's for
block
my
them and
convenience, not
get rid of it.
so that kind of stuff you don't have to. It's like
Yeah.
just remove yourself. Just remove yourself from the uninvited.
Yeah, it's
From
not
the uninvited.
invited. You didn't, if it was something of interest to you, that may be different, but it's not. Like, and that's the other thing, like how being, I think for me, and I think for a lot of empaths, we hate to be interrupted, because especially if we're focused on something or we're in the middle of something, or we're in a place of business, which for a lot of us that is Facebook. We're like, I'm working here. I'm not here for communication. But
Yeah.
but especially in those times, is that you get to choose, right? You get to choose if it is something you called in. Maybe it is something you called in. And I think because sometimes that is true for us, we think that everything has to be given the same That's not true. And that's not true. We get to discern the level of which we want to respond to something, right? So yeah, you get to make that decision all by yourself. And those people will live because they know that they're running the risk of annoying people when they're doing that. Well, they should know. They don't know. They'll know when you block them and they're like, where'd they go? Yeah. And that'll be their first information. It's kind of like how Floridians teach people how to drive in the South. In South Florida, we have this thing where where like if somebody's like driving slow in the fast lane, you just buzz by them in the second lane. Or if you like there's like just kind of these small ways that you basically teach people how to drive in Florida.
Right.
And it really is just kind of like it's like, well, there's also the people who are not nice about it, who feel like they have to be angry, which is again not necessarily. You can, you have a right to your feelings, and at the same time, you don't need to be angry because you could just go into the next lane and go by them, right? And so
Right.
there's also the angry version where people are like kind of just like running into your bumper. So there's aggressive ways of doing this as well, but I mean, but it's generally just saying, okay, I'm going to keep going the way I wanted to go, right? And and you're going to be visibly aware of how you are not in alignment with what wants to happen in this lane, right?
That, yeah, that's being aware of the energies around you. So it all works out in the divine plan, and spirit will line it all up for you. And you don't always have to do the action. Just like that with this morning, my experience with seeing that guy, it's like I didn't have to do the action to get out of my car to try to revive him and all of this stuff. But it's like that the energy to respond and the compassion that was there. And then and then it just like there the police officer showed up right in front of me for me to give him the message. And he was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And he said, "I'll go check on him." And I was like, thank you. Thank you for being in service. Thank you. Thank you for, that you'll go check on
Yeah,
him for
for
me.
showing up and like
Yeah. So it
doing
was
your
like
job.
perfect. It was like perfect timing for it.
And so she's like, teach Florida people how to drive in the mountains. And they're never gonna.
Oh,
That takes
yeah.
experience. Like we don't have that experience.
In
I
those
mean,
North
I do
Carolina
now,
mountains, it's
but
like,
that's from
yeah.
North Carolina. That's not from Florida. Yeah,
Yeah, you lived in North Carolina too. So it's
yeah.
like,
We had this manual truck, you know, and in North Carolina, we didn't even live in the mountains, but there are like kind of steep hills as well. So every now and again, if you're on the road, especially closer to the highway, like they build up those roads so that you're not going up and down and up and down and up and down. And like so, I had to turn.
yeah.
I was actually on the off side of it, and I had to turn around and there was like a ditch in front of me. There's a ditch on the other side. And these aren't like little ditches. These are like, 10-foot
Drop-offs.
ditches.
They like,
Yeah, like they're just, and I can't see in this truck that I barely know how to drive, trying to get to my sister's house. It was so interesting. But yeah, it was fun.
okay.
stick
So
shift is fun.
I did a thing on the YouTube channel of the Mercury Cazimi today and the energies and what we're in right now and the magical moment of that. So that's that. I did that, and I also did one on the Pluto retrograde that I posted over the weekend, and it because of the Pluto retrograde, it's going to be 2 houses for you. That it's going to bounce back and forth in. So I went over both of those houses and what that experience might be, because Pluto is the planet of transformation. It's the littlest one, and he's got a powerful punch to him. So we're in it. So that theme is there. So I did that, and then I'm going to do one probably posted
Well,
tomorrow
and
on
that's
the
like a
radio.
double energy there because with the Pluto doing all that activity, I mean, for Pluto, and between that and like, the home for Pluto is Scorpio, And with Scorpio, the full moon being in Scorpio, the eclipse being in Scorpio, that's a lot of that transformative energy, right?
Yeah.
Like, just be aware. Like, be aware where you're asking for transformation. I think a lot of times we think these things are happening to us on accident. No, like, you're part of the whole thing.
It was the
So
divine plan when you came in that you
yeah,
said, if I haven't worked through my shit by this time on this day, then we still have free will. We have free
this
will
is
to go, no, I'm not doing it, and I'm not gonna work through it, and then see what happens in your life.
yeah, but
It's like
oftentimes, even if you're not asking for the transformation, you're asking
it's
for the
gonna
change.
happen. It's
So, like,
like,
if you're
yeah,
like asking for more money, if you're asking for anything, you're asking for transformation. You're asking for something to change, right?
yeah.
So just be aware in those places where you're desiring or and asking for change, because there's a lot of that available. There's a lot of that available because there's a
It
lot of
can
that
happen
energy
really fast right
available.
now. It's like it can be that
It's
energy and
just
it
maybe
happens
a
fast.
little chaotic. Yeah. It may be a little intense, but it's what you're asking for. I feel like, again, if we can stay in that perspective of like why these things are happening, then it's a little bit easier to walk into them. You found what interesting? Who's that? Is that Pam or
Let
Jamie?
me see if I can see on the Facebook thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because and it is one of those things. So the full moon for Scorpio in the Gene Keys is actually gate one. So the first gate of the Gene Keys, Gene Key one, I should say, probably key one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that beauty, right? It's entropy. What's the other one? Beauty and let's see. Entropy, beauty. Oh, I didn't even write down. But it is that one that it is that I want to use one of his words, but that's a different city too. That sense of quintessence is when you finally get that answer. So it's a lot of what Kimberly is talking about, right? That you it's just up there. It's just up there, and then all of a sudden it
It's like,
becomes a light, a focus, an
yeah,
answer, right? That
the light
is
bulb
that
goes off.
gate
Yeah.
one. Yeah, and it's that first freshness. That's the other one. Freshness. It's the gift. And that freshness is because it's that the beginning of something, the beginning of something new, right? And it really is about how we are the entree, so to speak, the entry point to the next becoming,
My
to what
God's getting
wants to
ready to
come.
knock on my door. I can see him
Yeah.
coming. Okay.
So
We both have workers today that have spontaneously started
yeah,
in the middle of this, and I just saw
a
him
lot
walk up.
happening
So
on the outside of the houses.
so take this energy and let us know. Let us know what's happened with you. Let us know what's been going on with what's the experiences and the ahas that you've been getting during this Mercury retrograde and the insights that it's bringing to you. And then let us know the changes that you see happening in your life. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the awareness that you're getting. It's like the ahas, because that's what it's about. It's about getting the ahas that they'll
Yeah.
come, and they may come during your dreams because of the energy with the Pluto and also with this Scorpio lunar eclipse coming up. You may not get them during your awakening time.
Mm,
It may be during your dream time that it happens, or your
yes.
meditation time, or your walk time, or being out with the plants. But it might not be when you think it's not going to be when your mind is on and you're trying to get it. It will not be
Exactly.
when you are trying your best to get the
You should
damn
be
answer. That's not going to happen either.
open and receiving and accepting.
Yeah,
And yes.
yeah,
So I hope this helps you all, that you are and you can go find Kimberly's videos on this as well, so you can apply it to your houses
yeah.
if you
It
have the
goes into the
charts.
theme of each house and all of that. Okay, thank you all for being
All
here
right.
today. Thank you for being on this planet at this time we call now. It's like,
Thank you for being our fellow co-creators.
yeah. Be blessed. We'll be back next
Bless.
Monday, same time, same channel.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Adios,
All
people. Have a
right.
great magical Mercury Cazimi, because it's like we don't get these that often. The next Mercury Cazimi is not till like September or something. So it's like today's the day to grab the magic.
Beautiful.
Okay. Be blessed. Bye.